The American pilot had been flying for 3 years. He'd faced Messerschmitts, Focke-Wulfs, flak so thick you could walk on it. Nothing had prepared him for this. It passed him like he was standing still. The year was 1944. The war was nearly over. The Allies were winning on every front. And the Germans, running out of fuel, out of pilots, out of time, had just introduced the world's first operational jet fighter. It was faster than anything the Allies had. More advanced than anything America or Britain were flying. By every measure, it was a decade ahead of its time. So, how did Germany lose? The answer is one of the most devastating stories in the history of aviation. A story about genius, about politics, about one man's catastrophic decision, and about what happens when the most advanced weapon ever built arrives 5 years too late. While Allied engineers were still perfecting propeller-driven fighters, a German engineer named Hans von Ohain had already solved the fundamental problem of jet propulsion. By 1939, before the war had even fully begun, Germany had flown the world's first jet-powered aircraft, the He-178, a small, fragile, experimental machine, but it flew, on jet power, 2 full years before the British got their first jet airborne, and 3 years before America. The technology was real. The potential was understood. The question was whether Germany's military leadership would grasp what they had and act on it fast enough to matter. They didn't. The ME-262 that eventually entered service was a genuine leap forward. Swept wings, a design concept so advanced that American engineers were still debating it theoretically when Germany was already flying it. Twin Junkers Jumo 04 turbojets, each producing nearly 2,000 pounds of thrust. A top speed of 559 miles per hour, nearly 100 miles per hour faster than the fastest Allied propeller fighter in the sky. At those speeds, it was almost impossible for Allied piston fighters to intercept it in level flight. The ME-262 was effectively untouchable, unless it slowed down, which it had to do for takeoff and landing. That vulnerability would prove decisive, but not for the reasons the Allies planned. By 1943, the ME-262 was ready for production as a pure interceptor, exactly what Germany desperately needed. Allied bombers were devastating German cities. A jet interceptor that could climb faster, fly faster, and hit harder than any escort fighter would have changed the equation entirely. But Adolf Hitler had other ideas. At a demonstration of the ME-262, Hitler asked a single question: can it carry bombs? The engineers hesitated. Technically, with modifications, yes. But using it as a bomber would negate everything that made it revolutionary. Its speed, its altitude, its ability to survive. Hitler declared it a blitz bomber, a high-speed attack aircraft, not an interceptor. For over a year, production of the ME-262 as a fighter was effectively frozen. The most advanced combat aircraft in the world was redesigned to carry 2 small bombs, a task a conventional Heinkel 111 could do better, slower, and cheaper. By the time the order was reversed, it was 1944. The Allies had landed in Normandy. Germany was fighting on 2 fronts, and there was no longer enough jet fuel, enough trained pilots, or enough time. Despite everything, the ME-262 in combat was terrifying. Equipped with 4 30mm cannons, a single burst could tear a B-17 Flying Fortress apart. Allied escort fighters were powerless to intercept it unless they caught it in the pattern over its own airfield. The solution the Allies found tells you everything about how seriously they took the threat. They didn't try to outrun it. They couldn't. Instead, P-51 pilots were assigned to loiter over German jet airfields and attack ME-262s during the few minutes they were slow, on approach, wheels down, throttle back. It worked. But it was a workaround, a patch, not a solution. In total, ME-262 pilots claimed over 500 Allied aircraft destroyed. The number of ME-262s lost to Allied fighters in the air? Fewer than a dozen. When the war ended, the race to capture German aviation technology was as fierce as any military campaign. American engineers shipped ME-262s to Wright Field. Soviet engineers took theirs to Moscow. British engineers dissected the Jumo 004 engines. What they found accelerated the jet age by a decade. The F-86 Sabre, the aircraft that would fight in Korea, incorporated swept-wing data taken directly from German research. The Soviet MiG-15, which surprised American pilots over Korea with its performance, was powered by a jet engine whose DNA traced directly back to captured German technology. Germany lost the war, but German engineering won the peace, quietly through the aircraft that followed. The ME-262 flew for less than a year in meaningful numbers. It never had the fuel, the pilots, or the political support it needed. But in that brief window, it showed the world that the age of the propeller was over. One decision, one man's insistence on using a revolutionary machine the wrong way. That's all it took to change the course of aviation history. Not forward, but sideways, into a future that someone else would build. Next week on Afterburn History, the day America nearly nuked Spain. That video is right here. Subscribe. I'll see you up there.